Hey, Karen.
Hello.
Welcome. Are you jumping in?
Yeah, we just started.
You just can't
Perfect
stop
timing.
Karen. She's just always learning new skills.
Perfect time.
Golly.
That is her thing.
Yes. Okay, we were just talking about what people are wanting to kind of get out of this. So people said NFTs. They want to be able to. Yeah, I said that's not really going to happen, but I like the energy. Yeah. So I think we can go ahead and just roll forward. We won't get into like any of the major stuff yet, but what we will go over is some basic understanding of HTML and CSS. If you don't know what those are, don't worry, we'll go over it. By the probably class 4 or 5, we'll be getting into WordPress, which is a CMS. CMS stands for Content Management System, and basically it just allows you to have basically be able to quickly update your content without having to know all of this back-end stuff that we're learning, which I'm going to show you how that works on the Circuit Writers website. But I want you guys to have this basic understanding, because every time you look at a website, you're looking at HTML and CSS. CSS is CMS is Content Management System. So that would be like Squarespace is a CMS, WordPress is a CMS, although they work a little bit differently, and we can get into that. So yeah, all those kind of systems that kind of build on top of HTML and CSS. And then we'll also go over the Divi Builder, which is a plugin for WordPress that just adds a lot of kind of building tools to be able to style your website the way you want. And I'll show you that as well tonight, and we'll get into it in some of the later classes. Some of you, I was a little bit torn between whether we do I could start out with showing you guys WordPress and a builder tool. The problem is, the good thing is, if you know those things, then you have one thing that you just know, and it's the easiest way to jump on is just using a tool like that. But a lot of you already have done some of that. And really, these kind of basic building blocks of HTML and CSS are going to make you much more valuable regardless of what tool set you use, if it's Squarespace or WordPress or you just build your whole website from scratch, which, hopefully by the end of this, if you really wanted to, you could do.
Wow.
Yes,
Exciting.
very exciting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the value of a good web developer. So number one, it's really it's amazing that people like Andrew Boyer and of course Daniel Bryan with his designs, and even us as web developers, we can inspire people. But inspiration doesn't do you any good if you don't have the information to be able to act on that inspiration. So as a good developer, you're basically making sure that people have access to the information that they need to act on their inspiration, whether that be for your own business, for circuit writers, for a client. It's basically getting the information out there, and also getting information from your client or from the user to your client. So number 2, a good web developer works with the designer. That you might be the designer as well, but so for me, a lot of times I'm working with Daniel, and I work with him to make the experience look good and feel good. So he can make it look good, but I have to make sure, number 1, that it feels good. That has to do with how quickly it loads. Do things work the way you would expect them to work? There are some kind of best practices and things that you just intuitively understand about, oh, that's a button, that looks like a button, I should be able to click it, that kind of stuff. And sometimes as a designer, he's going or whatever designer you're working with, they're thinking again more aesthetically, they're thinking more print, that kind of design. And as a web developer, you have to have a really good understanding of UI UX, which UI is user interface and UX is user experience. So yeah, because you're going to take all of these kind of visually beautiful aspects that they're designing, and then you sometimes have to push back on okay, but the usability, it's kind of a dance between those two things. Okay, what was that? I just said, UI UX and working with your designer to come to a good balance there. Okay, and then lastly, you make communication flow seamlessly from the brand to the audience. Well, I should say to and from, because it's about people being able to, again, find the information they need, but then also be able to get easily be able to, submit an application or, make a purchase or, all those kind of things to be able to interact with the brand. So, okay, this is an interesting fact. Speaking of the value of a good web developer and what part of our job is, website conversion rates drop by an average of 4.42% with each additional second of load time between 0 to 5 seconds. So imagine someone's coming to Circuit Riders and they want to sign up to do CRX. Every second the page takes longer to load. Essentially, almost 5% of our audience doesn't come to CRX.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's understanding that kind of thing, and it makes you like, oh, I can actually have like an impact and an influence. Yes.
Does that have anything to do with the Wi-Fi, or is it like actually just the website?
Yeah, I mean, it's so basically your role as a web developer is to make sure that the website, and this is a hard balance because you have stuff that is like content heavy, like video and stuff that makes the experience better, but then you also have to say, oh, like if that kind of stuff, if my audience doesn't have fast enough, you kind of have to know how fast your average audience speed is, and then you're working to cut down everywhere you can so that you can offer those high value experiences without like your website taking like 20 seconds to load, essentially. So,
Like crime investigation.
yes, it's creative problem solving, and it is fun.
Creative problem solving crime.
Yes, okay, exactly. So, a lot of people are like, well, why, Danny does the whole design. Why don't you just, if it's already all designed, like what's the difference of just putting what he designed? Like we can already see it all the content is there. So I want to show you guys an example. If you guys go to circuitwriters.com/image, but this is essentially what you would have if I just took Danny's, whatever Danny sent me and just put it up. And you're like, oh, this, doesn't look bad, except for the fact that number one, on your phone, you can't read any of the text because it's too small.
Tiny.
What the?
You can't click anything. There's no button.
That's what came up for you?
Wait.
You're lying.
Okay, so there's several problems with this. Number one, responsiveness. So again, when we looked at it on our phone, you'd have to like zoom in. Not a great experience overall. Number two, no interactivity. So buttons don't work, and you could just, technically you could probably just like put, okay, this area I want, when you tap there, I want it to go whatever, like you could work that out. But the other problem is search engines can't read pictures. So if someone searched Circuit Riders and this was your website, nothing would come up. And any content within it, if they were searching for the content within it, nothing would come up. Also, you can't copy and paste text, and you can't have videos because it's just an image. So lots of reasons that we're valuable, essentially, and the reason we don't just put up images. The last one is, you probably didn't notice it because the Wi-Fi is fast here, and we have, we live in a day and age where a lot of us have fast internet on our phones, but that image is 8 megabytes, and the actual website is about 1.5 megabytes, even though, the actual website has like a lot more to it. And that's because a lot of the areas don't actually need, like images are obviously heavier data-wise. And a lot of the areas on the actual website, we can say, okay, this whole area should just be white. In HTML, we'll tell the browser that, and then it doesn't have to use an image for all that section. Okay, so basically, with HTML, oops, I went too far.
That's so fun.
You're taking the website and you're breaking it up into sections, and then you're able to make it responsive so that on different screen sizes and different devices, you just have a lot more control over it, as well as all the other things that I mentioned: interactivity, search engine, search engine optimization, so the ability for search engines to index your site and show it when people are searching for your content, videos, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, lots of good reasons. So I want to talk a little bit about how I learned. Thankfully, when I started learning web development, It was about 2003. I was like 14 years old, and at the time Yahoo's homepage looked like this.
Come on.
So
I remember something like that's what Craigslist
yeah,
was.
someone was on
Good
Craigslist earlier. Yeah, it was like
Good time.
Craigslist still looks like
Yeah,
this.
Craigslist
So
hasn't changed.
yeah, exactly. But it was just a simpler time, and it was a lot easier, honestly, to kind of get in on it at that time because it wasn't so complicated. Essentially, you can think of this. It was like a Word document with links in it, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, pretty easy.
Button right there. Just want to touch it.
I know.
So-
Me too. I want to
Yeah.
with the little white.
Oh yeah.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to show you now. Obviously, the internet has come a long way, and you know, as it's gotten more complicated, there are also tools to make it more to make it easier to use. So let me make my screen. Okay, so if I wanted to edit this, text here, all I have to do is press escape. Oh wait, yes. Okay, press escape, and I'm actually already logged in. If I wasn't logged in, I'd type in my username and password. Get the door here. You got it? Okay, thank you. Okay, and then I can, scroll down. There's our video. I can click on this, and I can edit the
Wow.
text, and then
Interesting.
I could save it.
So WordPress.
So if I said yes, so this is WordPress with the Divi Builder. So I could do things. All right, you guys ready? I'm gonna do something really irresponsible here. I am. All right. I'm gonna say. Opportunities now. Believe that. Save. Boom. Okay. Wait for it. Wait for it.
I see it.
Okay.
That's so
It says believe that at the end.
At the end.
Okay, so pretty, easy. And then I'll also, like, I can just, I could adjust the spacing here. Edit any of the text. I could
It
add.
looks so much more user friendly than that.
I could add an image, all that kind of stuff. But I'm actually okay. Beautiful. So it's pretty easy. But the problem is, any builder that you use like this is going to have limitations. And if you have an understanding of how HTML and CSS work, you won't have limitations. Literally anything that Danny or whoever your designer or whatever you envision, you can do. So, and also you'll just be much quicker. Honestly, there's a lot of things that having that kind of root level understanding is going to just make you way more valuable. And again, it's cross-platform, so it doesn't matter where you want to use it. It'll be valuable. All right, what is HTML? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, which that's not really important. No one even cares anymore. It was invented in the, I think the 70s or 80s. And we all know the term HTML. No one knows what it means. That's okay. You don't have to. Doesn't help you in any way. But there it is, Hypertext Markup Language. Okay, so essentially all that means is it's a combination of text, images, and links. And it's what a browser intakes. So it looks like something like this. So a browser like Chrome, Safari, or Firefox, amongst others, will take that and they will know how to read that and output that. So the tools. All right, I'm going to have you guys download an app. This app is called Brackets, and it's essentially just a text editor. What? On your computer. Yes.
I've already picked up this one.
That's fine. Thank you. Yeah, if you just Google Brackets.
Brackets.io.
Okay, while they're doing that, all this is a text editor, so you could open up literally any text editor. I could open up, I think there's one on Mac called Text Edit. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. So if I just open up Text Edit, which is like the default text editing app on, I could do a new document. and I could start typing HTML in here. The problem is, if I start typing HTML in here, I don't have any formatting, so I can't see like easily what, it doesn't automatically like format the text, so it just makes it harder to
Sorry, when you say format, you mean like when it's like those different colors?
highlighting.
Like,
Yes, text
highlights
highlighting.
them?
So like you saw in that picture, that is code highlighting, and it just makes it easier to kind of pick out what you're looking for in code. That's not very good code highlighting in my opinion. It looks just kind of crazy. But so brackets has HTML. It's called syntax highlighting. So all syntax highlighting does is it makes it easier for you as the editor to be able to quickly navigate your code with it all out, not just looking like, just like white text. So once you guys get brackets installed, it's going to look something like this. I think I put mine into like a dark mode. Oh, view themes. Okay, that wasn't too hard. And then just change it to brackets dark. You can do that. But a really cool thing about the internet is any web page, for instance, if we go to yahoo.com now, this isn't a very good example, but if you wanted to know how something, like if you saw a button or something on the internet that you were like, oh, that's really cool. The nice thing about the internet is that it's all open source. Anything that is on your computer, the HTML and CSS is also on your computer. So you can look at it. So say, for instance, this image over there. I'm like, man, how did they do these, these blocks? That's kind of cool. I'm making a news website and I want to do that. So I can right-click on it, and yes, what I'm going to do? Inspect.
That's how I used to take Power School. Yeah.
Oh my god! Hey, actually, resulting.
Right, I was about to say, unless you're just getting your... Yeah, there you go, that's true. Okay.
Or you can
I wish I know.
So here I can see the image, and here I can see all of the styles applied to it. What browser are you in? Are you in Safari or Safari? So that's in Google Chrome. You can do it in Safari, but you have to go up and do Enable Developer Tools in the System Preferences. I would recommend just downloading Chrome, just because for this kind of stuff, it'll be nice to have it on your. That way, we're all in the same.
Why doesn't Safari or Firefox work for it? I'm curious.
I don't know. I think it's integrated. Brackets is integrated with Chrome.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll just be easier if you.
Do you have to?
Okay, so the little lightning icon in the top right, what that does is it opens up a special version of Chrome. So this guy up here, it'll open up a special version of Chrome, and it'll open up your web page. And the nice thing about it is every time that you make a change and you save. So if I say like this is some text, which is already up there, but I'll say like this is some text 22222, and then as soon as I hit save, it reloaded in the background. So I didn't have to like come back over here and like hit reload the page. So you're just getting an instant live preview of everything you do over here. As soon as you hit save, it's going to update.
But you private, it's not published.
Yes, so this is all just on your computer. So in a minute, we're going to get into, we'll make our own thing with that, but I'm going to go over a little bit more about HTML, and then we can dive into doing a little bit of coding. But yes, did you have a question?
The one question, when we did the inspect and we could see, is that, and maybe you don't know the answer, is that how people like do mimics, like hack sites? Is they just copy the code of the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
there's
something called site phishing, which is where they'll basically make like a fake version of like America Online or Bank of America.
That makes so much sense.
And then all of that, they can literally just copy the whole page and paste it over.
How are they doing that?
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
All right. Is everyone good? Did everyone get it downloaded?
Yeah.
Okay. If not, don't worry. Just take notes, and we'll get it figured out after the class. How are we doing on time? Ooh, we got 15 minutes. This is going to be fun. Okay. We might not get through all this tonight, but okay. So understanding HTML. So HTML, a way to think about it is it's the structure of a website. So basically, if you think of it like we have a house, and then inside the house we have a kitchen, and inside the kitchen we have a sink, and then we also have a table, and we have a chair, and that's the end of the kitchen. Okay, and then in the kitchen we also have like a living room, and in the living room we might have a couch and a chair. Okay, this is just this isn't this is just how HTML works essentially, and we're going to get into the actual HTML syntax. But if you understand, it's just basically the structure. Okay, so and then we're going to end the house. Okay, so in HTML.
I love this.
Yeah, so this is actually very close to actually what HTML syntax looks like. Okay, so another way of thinking about it is HTML is the structure, it's the skeleton, and then HTML and CSS, or CSS is the way to stylize it. It says, okay, the head is, blonde and whatever, and then the body, it's wearing a suit and whatever. So it's all the stylistic information is handled by CSS, and the structural information is handled by HTML. So there are some very basic design and style things that you can do in HTML, but it's really bad at it. When it was originally invented, there was no need for styling. It was basically, they were putting up bulletin boards, essentially. So then CSS came along and made it so you can make it all actually look good.
Wow.
Okay, so HTML syntax. So we're going to get into how it actually looks when we're doing HTML. So instead of a house, we're going to let the browser know, hey, this is HTML. And we open that with pointy brackets. I don't know exactly what those are called. Saying, okay, start the HTML. And then inside of that, we say, okay, here's the head. And HTML is just a head and a body. So that's like the kitchen and the living room. So in the head, we're going to put information for the browser, like, hey, the title of this web page is my cool web page. And then you can see here we've ended the title, so that it knows we're moving on to the next thing by saying pointy bracket / and then whatever the tag that we're in, or the element. Yes, so that's how you end an element.
And it's usually tabbed like that.
Okay.
Yes. It doesn't have to be for the browser to understand it. This is more so for people to be able to, so that you can look at your code again. To kind of, yes, to easily see what's inside of what. Okay, so now we're going to close the head. So again, pointy brackets / head. And we're going to move on to the body. And then in the body, we're going to put a divider. Which dividers, the only point of them, it's just kind of a general purpose thing, and we could use it for like, oh, if I want 2 columns, I could use a divider to make the column 1 and the column 2. And then inside of that, we put a P. Can anyone guess what P stands for?
Paragraph.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding. You've done this before. Okay, great job. So yes, P stands for paragraph. And that's the good news about HTML. Number one, so it is technically a coding language, but it's very basic. So yeah, it's not a lot to learn. And most of them are things that are totally semantic. Like you would like P, paragraph. Okay. B is for bold. So if I wanted that text to be bold, I could just put B there and put it inside of the B element. So it's really easy to learn. And we'll go over 4 of the elements, which are like pretty much, if you know the 4 of them, you could almost do anything.
Wow.
With HTML. Okay, so then we've closed out the body, and then finally, what's the next thing? What's the last thing we need to do here?
Close out the
Close out
HTML.
Yes,
Come
close
on.
out the HTML. Wow. Well done. Okay.
Your whole website, right?
Yes, that's a whole website. Okay, so you have the head again, which is information the user won't necessarily see. It doesn't show up on the page. The title will show up on the page in the once you set that, that's what shows up in the browser bar at the top. But it's not like part of the actual. So it's actually what shows up here, yahoomail.com. The title will, So actually, if I inspect this page, if I scroll up, so here's the head, here's the body. I'm going to close up the body there. There's the head. We can twirl it down, and they have a lot of it's pulling in a lot of things. But here's the title tag, Yahoo bar, mail, weather, blah, 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 and that's the same thing that shows up
Oh,
right up here.
Wow.
What is equals?
Yes.
Is the meta that little icon? Let me chill out. I have some-
Sorry, yeah, lots of questions. Okay, we're gonna keep rolling because we're short on time, and then we'll circle back for any questions.
amazing.
You guys understand how the internet works?
glad
I'm not darker
meeting
so I.
Okay. So
Everyone comes back and we all know like everything.
these are
Tags.
I think 9
Cheat sheet.
HTML tags or elements. Yes. So we're only going to go over 4 of these. And a lot of these, again, like, well, okay, I'll just walk through it really quickly. Heading is H1 through H6. So, like, if you want it really big, you'd go H1. And then the smaller you want it, you could do different styles and stuff. But yeah, instead of saying P and then putting text inside of it, you could say H1, and that would say, okay, this is important information. And also, search engines will look at that and say, hey, what's their like their headings, because that's the really stuff that the website's really about. So yeah, paragraph, obviously super basic. So inside of a paragraph, you would just put text. Italic or emphasize, they're the same thing essentially. You would just put I again for italics. B for bold or strong. Again, it's just almost 100% the same thing. It's just 2 different ways of writing it. Divisions or dividers are those div tags I told you, and their general purpose. You can use them for whatever you want, just to kind of break up the content of your page. And again, you'll use CSS to say, oh, I want this division to be blue, or I want this division to kind of stick in this certain location. So they're just kind of, instead of assigning that directly to a paragraph, because you might want several paragraphs in a divider, they're kind of a wrapper. You can think of them as. Okay. Unordered lists and lists. I'm sorry. So you actually have unordered list or ordered list, which would be that UL in the beginning there. And then inside of ULs, which we'll go over this, you'll have list items, which would be like if you had like a bulleted list that you wanted to show up. It's just a way that they have kind of built into HTML for you to do that. You honestly could do that without putting it inside of that. Like you could just put a paragraph and you could start every thing with a circle like that you can do on your keyboard. But there's a lot of advantages to doing it in HTML, and we'll go over some of that. Okay, and then last 2 are images, which obviously you want to have some images on your web page. And the image element is a little bit interesting. You can see how it closes off differently than the rest of them. That's because you never put inside of an image, you never put content. So a paragraph, you're going to say, paragraph starts here, and the paragraph ends here, but an image is always just an image. So you would just say image, and then I'll show you how you tell it where on your computer that image is.
So it begins and ends.
Yes, it's one element. It doesn't have a opening and closing element. And then the last one is an anchor, which is essentially a link. So yeah, you would start it with an A, and we'll go over the like a little bit more on the syntax on that. But okay, so we're just going to go over 4: paragraph, division, image, and anchor links. And if you know these 4, honestly, you could pretty much, HTML essentially. Like you could pretty much do what you need to do. So paragraphs, super simple. Start it with the pointy brackets, a P, and then close your pointy bracket. And then you'd write your text, whatever you wanted to say, and then you'd close it with pointy bracket / P. The same way you close anything. Any questions on that? Pretty basic. Cool. Okay, we're blazing through these guys. Go ahead. Question.
If you were going to, so you do the P, say you want the paragraph bold, is that where you do like the brackets P and then you do like another set of brackets to specify what you want? Yeah,
so inside of your paragraph you can make a word or like
fun.
Yes.
Wow.
You can put them together, yes.
I might have missed it, but why did one of them have there were 2, but one was different?
Yes, so the first one is the opening of the paragraph. The second one is the closing of the paragraph.
Okay.
And the reason that you don't just do another P is because a lot of elements in HTML can be nested. So if you started with another P, it would just say, oh, he wants a paragraph inside that paragraph. I'm not sure if you can nest paragraphs, but like, for instance, divisions, like the div tag, you can start with a div that could be like your row, and then inside, or your row, and then inside of that you might have another divider that's like, okay, this is my column, another column, and then close the whole row. So that's why it's important to have an opening and a closing tag. Okay, next one, lists. And I talked about this a little bit. So again, it's the same syntax, only this time there's a required kind of nesting. So inside of the unordered list, which is UL, we'd put a list item.
What does that mean, unordered?
So that's like a bulleted list. Whereas can anyone guess what the syntax for an ordered list would be?
OL?
OL, yes. Okay, so syntax, does everyone know what that word means?
No.
It's basically it's the rules for how a language works, essentially, is your syntax.
So it's like
It's like the order
How is
your
a
sentence.
list
Unordered in language.
Yes.
I want to say apostrophe, but it's not that.
Oh, what is it?
Like how in English I would say, this is my friend Karen, but if Karen were to say that in Spanish, the order of the words would be different.
Yes.
Yeah,
like
so it's the
noun,
rules of the
verb.
language.
It's like adjective, noun, verb.
Exactly.
Nice.
So a web browser is expecting to hear you speak in a certain way, which is the syntax. So it's looking for those things, and if you try and speak to it in a different language or you screw up the order, it'll get confused. So that's makes sense. So I'm gonna go over two more elements. Actually, maybe right after this, I'm gonna have you guys jump into the code editor. I'm gonna put up that example that I showed earlier, and I'm gonna have you guys make your first web page. So,
Quick.
okay, yes, it's coming on. Okay, but no, that's a great question. So yeah, so that was an unordered list. All right, practice. So I want you to open up brackets. I want you to make a new file. You can save it on your desktop. And you can name it, we're going to name it index.html. And I'll tell you why in a little bit.
What if there's already one that's open?
Well, you want to just go File New, and you're going to save it on your desktop. So go up to the very top of up here. Let's see, go File, New, or you can press Command N. Okay, and then go File. Go one more time and go File, Save As. Oh, and we're going to name it index.html. Does everyone have index.html created? Oh, nice. And I want you guys to make a web page. I'm not going to tell you anything unless you have questions. And we'll just see, we'll see how you guys do. Here's the only rule, it cannot mirror this exactly.
Okay.
So you have to add some creativity
This is exciting.
to your web page. And see if you can remember any of the other elements that weren't in this.
My heart's beating.
How much time is like 5 minutes or what?
Adding design. I'm just.
So we got to get the structure,
Okay.
and then next week we'll go over,
And then you can do more.
yes. She's like, I hate this is ugly.
Well, yeah, because I'm just thinking
It's not
like
aesthetic, Reggie.
Yeah, exactly.
bold and not bold.
It's not enough.
Enough options.
Yes, that's like,
What we do.
so yeah, so that's what I was saying. HTML is basic, and it was just to get information from one computer to another. And so it was super lame, and then CSS came along and was like, hey, we can make this look good. So that's what we're going to go over next week is some CSS. Okay, so guys, Aisha just had a great thing come up. So she started typing, and it wasn't doing syntax highlighting. And the reason is because she had named it My Cool Website HTML, but not .html. So the .html tells not only a web browser, but also brackets on your computer, hey, this is an HTML file, and I know what to do with it. This guy here, it's index. Sorry, it's a very messy desktop, but index.html. That .html is what tells the, like, if I just double click this, my computer will know to open it in a web browser. Brackets will know, hey, this is a HTML document, and so on and so forth. So that's important. While she's doing that, the reason I told you guys to name it index.html is because when we upload this to a server, the way web servers work is they're going to look inside of whatever folder you have. Like say that you buy web hosting, you'll be given a folder and they say, okay, put your stuff in here. And it will look by default, the first thing it'll go to is a file called index.html. And then you can kind of redirect people from there. So that's why I said that. But this is just on your desktop. It doesn't really matter what you name it. If you guys want to get creative, go ahead. As long as it ends in .html, it will work in the program. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of go around, look at what people are doing.
Yes.
Oh.
So one thing you guys are probably running into, and you might have noticed, is when you go to close an element, brackets will automatically close the last element that you have open. So some of you probably started typing. You hit close element, brackets closed it for you, and then you closed it on your own because you didn't notice,
Right.
which can screw up the,
Got it.
yeah.
But then it's still just
That's so funny.
Okay guys, I thought we were going to get a lot farther. Not a lot farther, just
So good.
the only things we were going to go over were images and links, but that's going to have to be next week.
Oh my gosh.
So we can link pages together and put
Mom, yes.
exciting images in our pages.
I gotta go.
We are making
Yeah.
websites. Woo! But congratulations everyone, you created your first from scratch webpage. Woo!
That was cool.
All right, love it guys, so fun.
Thank you, Reggie.
Yes.
Next week.
Yeah, next week same time,
Amazing.
7 o'clock. We might, because that's kind of what we was this time, and I feel like, yeah.
Where do all the rest of the colors come in? Like,
You're
thank
just
you,
so
Reggie.
excited.
Thank you, Reggie.
I'm like, I'm curious.
CSS.
Okay, that's what you're talking about, the dressing up.
Yes.
That's a skeleton.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you just gotta be happy with the bones.
I love it.
Great.
I can't believe it.
This is
Of course.
Yeah, Reggie.
so
Amazing.
much.
Super fun.
so much.
Absolutely.
So